Hi guys, it's Kit here from Kit Does Yoga. I wanted to do a little video today, just a vinyasa flow, get the blood moving, get your body moving, but I wanted to mix it up a little bit today and use a blanket. So go ahead and pause the video and grab yourself a blanket, a towel, really just anything nice and soft to kind of lift you off the ground a little bit. And then go ahead and fold it up about the length of your mat, or sorry, the width of your mat, and get it a few inches up off the ground. So we're going to use that today in a variety of different ways to both lift us up and cushion us. So let's have some fun. So we're going to start today's class in a seated position. Now, if you want to start using your blanket, you can actually sit up on top of it. So keeping your hips on top of it, it just creates like a nice soft place for your hips and your tailbone. It also has the benefit of lifting your hips up a little higher than your legs, which can be really comfortable. So I actually like to use blankets in meditation like anytime if I don't have my trusty meditation cushion with me. So just maybe sitting on the blanket, try and find a tall spine here. Find a place where you can relax your hands down, whether that's on your legs or the ground or anywhere else. And maybe close your eyes here. Just tune in for a second. Tune into your body. Listen to the rain outside if it's a rainy evening like it is here. We got some nice natural yoga music, yoga background music. And then start to tune into your breath here. So vinyasa is all about the breath. So moving with breath, aligning our movement to the breath. But really it all roots down to taking notice of your breath, being mindful of your breath. Breath is unique in that it's our only bodily function that we can both control and happens on its own. So we have a lot of things that we can control, like moving our eyes or our limbs. And we have a lot of things that go automatically, like digestion. Like you don't have to sit there and tell your stomach to digest your food. It just happens automatically. But breath is unique in that way that we can both tell ourselves to breathe, we can tell ourselves to breathe deeper, or if we don't notice it, it'll just keep on going. So that's one unique property of breath. So in yoga, we're challenged with noticing the breath, bringing our mind's eye to it. There's some effort in deepening your breath, bringing it into the core, and then exhaling it out. So we'll take 3 breaths here. Really tuning in, noticing your breath and how it's shown up for you today. And then from here, we're going to find Tabata Konasana. So this is actually going to be an extended Tabata Konasana. So we're actually going to keep our hips on our blanket. And then I'm just going to roll my upper body down all the way onto the mat. Adjust yourself if needed. And I'm going to take the blanket again right underneath my hips. And then just let my knees fall to either side. Right knee's going to the right, left knee's going to the left. Now this might feel a little bit different than Tabata Konasana on the ground. But go ahead and place one hand on your heart, one hand on your belly. With the blanket underneath our hips, we're getting a little tiny back bend here. And also it gives your hips a little bit more space to open up. So it might feel like you're going a little bit more deeper than you normally do. You can always adjust this by adjusting the distance of your heels from your body, taking them longer to take a more restorative pose, or closer if you feel you need a little bit more stretch. Breathing here. And then when you're ready, help your knees back to center and gently roll yourself up. We'll find a tabletop pose, so keep your blanket underneath you. I'm just gonna swing my legs to the side and find tabletop here. So, like I said, my blanket's still underneath me. Finding tabletop, shoulders over your wrists, hips over your knees. And take a moment to spread your fingertips wide. So really separating the pinky from the thumb, getting a nice wide base. So as we move into down dog, we have a lot of space, a lot of grip for our hands. And then on your next inhale, drop your belly, look forward, cow pose. Exhale, round your spine, cat pose. One more round here in, cow pose. Exhale, cat pose. And then we'll meet back in a neutral spine, so flattening out your back. And take a moment here, pull the belly button in, start to activate the core here. And take a moment, check in with your hands, see if they've come back together and spread them back out. And then what we'll do to really fire up the core is to tuck your toes and lift your knees up just an inch off the mat. Hold for a breath and then come back down. One more inhale, lift. Exhale, come back down. And then take another round of cat-cow here. Come back to neutral. And then lift your left arm up into the air. And exhale, we're gonna thread the needle, so coming down onto your left shoulder. So if you've lined it up correctly, maybe your left shoulder comes onto the blanket. And really reach your left arm through, bringing your head down to the mat or the blanket. Might help if you can see my face. But you have the option here, if you want, you can walk your right fingertips forward, reaching out, or wrap your right hand behind your low back here. So finding a nice place for your shoulder to rest. I like my palm up for this, but if you like palm down, you can do that as well. Breathing here, stretching out through the upper back. Take one more breath in. Exhale, bring your right hand back in front of your face. And then start to unwind yourself. Unthread your left arm, reach up for a counter twist, and then come back to tabletop. And then we'll do the other side. I know I'm gonna face back to you, but you'll see the other side. So lift your right arm up into the air, and then thread the needle coming down onto your right arm. So you can see it from the back here now. So my right shoulder is on the mat. The side of my face on the right side is on the mat. And then this time I'm going to reach forward with my left arm. So you might even be able to see that little bit of my right shoulder winging out, getting that nice stretch in the upper back. But I want you to think about opening up your chest here. So not just curling up, curling in, but really opening the chest. Take one more breath here. Bring your left hand back in front of your face. And then counter pose. Reach your right arm up and find a tabletop. So now we're going to do a different sort of thread the needle. So this one is going to be a little bit of movement. So you're going to lift your left arm up and exhale, just slightly thread the needle. I don't know, like baby thread the needle. I don't know what this pose is called. Maybe swing your right arm like you're threading the needle, but don't come down onto your shoulder. Instead, we're going to inhale, lift back up. Exhale, swing it down again, down and through. Inhale, lift your left arm. Exhale, swing it down. Then come back to tabletop. Tuck your toes and walk yourself back to down dog. Take a breath here. Let it out. And then come back to tabletop. And then we'll do the other side. So lift your right arm up. Exhale, swing it in between your left arm and left leg. Inhale, reach. Exhale, thread the needle. One last reach. Exhale, swing it through. One last reach up, and then find tabletop. Again, tuck your toes, just like we did before. Lift your knees up using your core, and then send your hips back, downward facing dog. Breathe here. Now, if you like that, you can keep doing that, or I'm gonna make it a little bit more challenging. This time what we want to actually do is back the blanket up and bring your knees onto the blanket. So I have my knees on the blanket, nice and soft. You can do this earlier too if it's bugging your knees, if you have some knee problems or anything you want to cushion there. And like I mentioned, we're stepping it up a little bit here. So if you like the first sequence and you want to keep doing that, you can do that as well. I'm going to start here in tabletop, finding a nice long spine. And then this time, I'm going to make it harder. I'm going to lift my right leg, press it back towards the back of the mat. So it's right in line with my glute. It's not up. I notice in my classes a lot of people like to lift their leg up. I don't know why, but it happens a lot. Maybe check back. Yep, so my right leg is going back towards the back of the room. And then I'm going to do those same swings here. So lift my left arm up. Exhale, swing it through. Whew, it's a little bit more difficult now. Lift it up. Swing it through. Really reaching when I get over there. One more lift. One more swing. I lied. One more lift. And then bring your left hand back down to the ground. Now, you do have the option to bring your right foot back down or keep it lifted, pressing back, tuck your left toes, and then press back into three-legged dog. So I'm really pressing through my hands, pressing through my left foot, engaging my core, and finding three-legged dog. Now, one more option, I'm going to warn you again. We're going to come back down onto our knee. Again, always an option to bring your right foot back down. But if you want to keep challenging yourself, roll forward again. Find that tabletop pose. Whew, a little burner there. And then we'll do the other side. So this time, from tabletop, send your left leg back towards the back of the room, sending it back like I want to stand on the tapestry behind me. Lift your right arm up, swing it through. Inhale up. Oops. Swing it through. This is really a stabilizing challenge. Lift it up again. One more swing. One more lift. And then find tabletop. And then we're ready for that challenge again. Tucking your right toes and lifting back up, three-legged dog. Whew. Stay here for a breath in, a breath out, and then come back down. Find that, I don't know, three-legged tabletop, something like that. I really don't I really don't know the poses here, I swear. And then nice job. From here, take 3 cat-cows. Resetting yourself, resetting your body. Moving with your breath here, noticing if it's gotten harder and seeing if you can slow it down a little bit. Now we're going to keep building onto that sequence. We got one more rep to do. So if you want the challenge, send your right leg back towards the back of the mat. And then you know where we're going. Inhale, lift. Exhale, swing. Inhale, lift. Exhale, come through. One more lift. One more swing through. Oh my gosh, I lied again. One more lift. And then come back to tabletop pose and find three-legged dog. Sending your right foot back towards the back of the mat, tucking your left toes, three-legged dog. And then actually, I gotta hop up to stay in camera. But what you wanna do now is we're gonna walk our hands back, inchworm them back, and find standing L pose. So this is also called standing splits, but I like to call it standing L pose. What I want you to do, instead of trying to split your legs as wide as you can, press your right foot back towards the back of the mat, bringing your weight into your left foot and maybe your fingertips. Breathe here. If you feel comfortable, you can let your neck hang loose, just hang here. And if you want even more of a challenge, take your hands to your left leg, maybe one, maybe the other, or if you're really feeling it, maybe both. Nice job, all of you taking on the challenge. I see you, I see you. Hold for one more breath, and then walk yourself back down. Oops, into this tabletop. That was really hard. Take 3 cat-cows here. Syncing them up to your breaths again. And then from here, we still got one side left, so you're going to send your left leg back. Inhale your right arm up into the sky. Exhale, swing it through. Do 2 more rounds. You know it's coming, but see if you can be present in the moment instead of anticipating what's next. Really focusing on this movement, no matter how many times we've done it before. How does it feel different than the last time? What's your body feeling right now? And then once you're done with those, bring your hands back down to the mat, tuck your right toes, and find 3-legged dog. Left foot lifted. Hold here for a breath. And then walk yourself back into standing L pose on this side. So I'm balancing on my right foot, my left leg's pressing back. Notice too if you're opening up your hips here, so I'm exaggerating, like I'm opening up my hips, and bring your hips back in line with each other. So they're the same distance from, oops, I'm a little close to the wall. The same distance from the ground, from your hips to the ground. And then again, option here, if you want to challenge yourself, reach back for your leg, or maybe relax your neck. Breathing here, noticing the sensations in your right leg as you balance on just your right leg. Take one more breath, and then walk your fingertips back, dropping your right knee, and eventually finding cat-cow. Last time, we're going to take 3 more cat-cows just to reset the body. And then from here, we're actually going to move onto our stomachs. So go ahead and set the blanket under your hips, so under your hip points again. And then come on to your belly. Adjust your mic pack if you have it. And then just take one cheek to the mat. Maybe stack it under your hands. Take a few breaths here. Letting your breath return back to normal. And then when you're ready, we're going to set up for Locust Pose. So bring your forehead to the mat. I have no idea what this is going to sound like on the mic. I'm all kind of right there. So sorry if this sounds a little weird, but you're going to bring your forehead to the mat nice and even. And then bring your hands out to the side, so palms down towards the ground. Your feet are back towards the back of the mat as well. And then on your next inhale, start to lift up your shoulders, your feet, and then start to look forward just at the top of your mat. And then lift up as much as you can. So your arms, the rest of your legs, your thighs, maybe even your chest lifts up. Pull your shoulder blades together. Locust Pose. Breathe here. We got the blanket elevating our hips a little bit. Probably feels pretty good. Maybe you feel the belly filling up and emptying with every breath in and breath out. Take one more inhale and then come back down to the mat. Maybe rest your opposite cheek on the mat and then bend your knees here and windshield wiper them back and forth. So if you like Locust Pose, you can come back to that. Or I'm actually going to scoot myself back on the blanket just a little bit. So again, it's my hips and more my pelvis on the mat now. We're going to set up for bow pose. So go ahead, again, align yourself up nice and even. Take your forehead to the mat. But this time, you're going to bend your knees and reach back for them, grabbing your feet or your ankles with your hands. Pull your legs together so they're squeezing together, and again, that's going to make me pull my shoulder blades together as well, so pulling those together. And then on your next inhale, start to lift up your thighs, look forward again, and find bow pose. Your feet or your ankles are pressing into your hands, and your hands are pulling back. Breathing here. Again, squeezing my legs together. Maybe that means I don't get as high up, but I'm engaging my glutes, engaging my core, breathing here. I really like the blanket for this because it's nice and easy on my hip points. Take one more breath in, and then release. Come back down to the mat and maybe windshield wipe your legs side to side. And then for our last back bend here, if you want to come back to locust or bow, you really like that, you can do that. Or scoot yourself back even more on the blanket, or scoot the blanket even more forward, more so it's under your belly button now. And we'll take Sphinx Pose. So for Sphinx Pose, you're going to pull your forearms back. So it's close to my elbow underneath my shoulder. If you're feeling any shoulder pain or this isn't comfortable, you can always walk them a little bit more forward. But just coming into Sphinx Pose here. I'm thinking about pulling my chest forward between my arms as my arms pull back. So they're not moving, but I'm actually pulling them back towards the rest of my body, towards the blanket. And then notice your shoulders as well. So are they hunched towards your ears, or can you lift up and out? Again, thinking about your chest pulling through, your shoulders pulling down. There's a lot going on here for this seemingly simple pose. Take one more breath here, and then actually press yourself up and come back to child's pose. So take your hips wide, or take your knees wide, send your hips back, and find child's pose. I happen to align my forehead right over my blanket, so you can do that if that feels good. And then from here, when you're ready, start to lift yourself up again. So I'm going to take the blanket actually back under my knees again. I'm going to set up for a lizard pose here. So from here, I'm going to tuck my toes and find downward facing dog. From here, I'm going to take my right leg high, three-legged dog, just like before, and then bring my right foot forward. And this time, I'm actually going to bring it to the outside of my right foot. So I have my right foot on the outside of my right hand, and then I'm going to drop my left knee down onto the blanket. Oops, I'm going to scoot mine back a little bit. So this is lizard pose right here. So I'm sinking my hips down, getting a nice stretch through the outer hip, the inner hip, a little bit through my left hip flexor as well. So I'm breathing here, fixing my pants. But there's some options here. If you like, you can keep your left knee lifted or bring it back down. And then if you want, your right foot can also roll out. So my right knee is falling out to the right, and I'm coming onto the pinky toe side of my right foot, or keep it back in center. And then again, any of those options as well, but you sink your chest forward. Maybe you come onto forearms. Actually, I gotta roll out to do this by coming onto forearms. Or if you have a block or an extra blanket, you can always come to those as well. So finding lizard pose here. Breathing here into the hips. I like to use a blanket with this pose because sometimes it can get kind of painful on your knee. We like to hold hip openers a little bit longer than your normal poses, just to get into all the muscles of the hip. All those tiny muscles holding your leg onto the rest of your body that help you move in all different directions. But sometimes before we get to those stretches, we tend to feel the pain in our knee, and it kind of takes us out of the mindfulness. Stay here on this side for one more breath. And then walk your right foot back and find a child's pose again. Take your knees wide and sink back. Maybe take notice of the difference in your hips, see how they're feeling. And then when you're ready, we're going to go ahead and set it for the other side. So coming back to down dog. This time take your left leg high, or whatever leg you didn't do last time. And then bring your left foot forward to the outside of your left hand. So maybe it's a little bit easier to see on this side, but I have my two hands. And then my foot over to the left. I'm going to drop my knee onto my blanket. And feel free to adjust here, so whether you take your foot out to the side or bring it back towards center. Find where you can feel the stretch. So really tuning into yourself. I know I say that a lot, but this is really your chance to customize these poses. And then you have all the options available to you here. Knee lifted or dropped. Left leg out to the left or not. And then I'll go ahead and take this version here where I drop down onto my forearms. So it's kind of nice. You can see both sides, see some different variations. And feel free to test them out too. Play around with them. There's no need to stay in one place. You can always see what works for you, what you like better, just depending on the day or in general. And then when you're ready, once you feel even, start to make your way out of this side and find one last child's pose. And then when you're ready, make your way out of it and onto your back. We're going to set up for legs up the wall here. So I'm going to take my hips onto my blanket again. And then roll back down onto the mat. And this time take my feet up into the sky for legs up the wall. So I like a block or my hands under my low back here, but the blanket's giving me just enough lift here to create a nice comfortable legs up the wall pose. Sending my feet up into the air, finding where they give the least amount of effort. And then just taking this time to be upside down for a few minutes. Always option to move to a wall if you like that as well. Even with the blanket, bring the blanket with you. And then you can stay here or make your way into Shavasana. So thank you all for joining me for this little vinyasa flow with a blanket. I didn't intend to use it in every single pose, but it actually worked out really well. So I hope you found something new to kind of do in your practice. Maybe you found a new prop for your blanket or your towel, or maybe you learned a new pose. So thanks for joining me for this class. And if there's anything else in your house you want to throw into a yoga class, I guess like comment it below. I don't know. We'll get creative, so go ahead, comment that below and let me know how you liked using the blanket. Thanks for watching, because who doesn't like blankets? I love blankets.